Hey, thanks for tuning in. I'm Dre,
I'm Luke.
and welcome to the Afterlife. We've had a little hiatus for a little bit. I was sick for a couple weeks.
We basically had to switch platforms. Yeah, we've just both been busy.
We'll be back on our normal schedule to once a week. But that being said, what are we talking about today, Luke?
So this week I got the topic. It's gonna be about xylazine, or better known as Tranq dope, also known as the zombie drug, which other drugs have been known as the zombie drug, such as PCP.
Right.
And we're gonna try to tie it into scopolamine, or the dragon's breath, or
Okay.
what some theorize as how they make zombies in Haiti.
Hmm.
I'm gonna kind of be just going over the side effects of each drug, and
Okay.
it's like I'm not denying, just like as a PSA, I guess, I'm not denying that it's caused by black magic, but I just found the drug effects really interesting. So
Right. So
that's
more of
kind of
like
what we'll be
the
talking about today.
more of like the pharmaceutical kind of scientific side.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'm not a scientist, but I did some research and I'll probably pronounce a lot of stuff poorly, but we'll try to get through this. It's gonna start out with xylazine, the drug that's been making rounds in the news, Tranq
Hmm.
dope. It's like the new street drug. Really scary side effects here. And then we're gonna go over a little bit about the first expeditions into Haiti to try
Okay.
to figure out the whole zombie phenomena. But yeah, should be pretty cool.
Okay, so Tranq dope. I've heard a little bit about that in the news. But what is it? Like, so what is Tranq dope and how is it different from any other, zombie-like drug?
So the scientific name of it is xylazine, and I believe it's used to tranquilize like horses, like
Hmm.
big livestock, to like sedate them, but
Oh,
they've
okay.
been mixing it with fentanyl,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just apparently really insane, really heavy stuff, and shouldn't be used if you're a
Um,
human, probably, but people are using it. Drug dealers are like mixing it up with fentanyl, and
okay.
it's out.
Mm.
It's out and about. It's kind of like the new PCP, I guess.
Okay.
I
And
didn't really look into PCP side effects, but
now I know like with PCP, a common thing was like people being really, violent or having like insane bursts of strength, almost like similar to that, like the side effects of like adrenaline almost. Now, like with like Trank dope, is that like making its way to the States? Is it like more like South America? And like what are the side effects of that? Like other than like sort of like a zombie like state, is like give you like an enhanced strength or anything like that?
yeah.
Or
Well, with xylazine, it does have similar effects to PCP in that it can give the user like fits of rage, and also like when it comes to strength, you can't really feel pain on it. I don't know if it's at the same level of PCP, because I guess with PCP I heard that like people would like literally get shot and like not react,
yeah,
or I've like heard stories like that. I don't know if
yeah.
it's at that level, but yeah, I can go over a lot of the side effects here, and I kind of just picked out side effects that related to what I think of as like zombies, and there's like a difference between what like a Haitian type of zombie is and more of like a Western pop culture type of zombie.
Right, of like what the idea. Yeah, absolutely.
And I just kind of included both of them. So, yeah, Western, it's like the typical zombie movie, and
Hmm.
Haitian, it's more like voodoo. It's like they're
It's
just
more
like a
like
slave.
enslaved. Yeah, yeah, they're more like
Yeah,
enslaved by the Bolquars.
and
Yeah.
apparently, like what caused that to spread, or one of the reasons that caused that to spread through their culture was that they already were slaves, and like the one chance that they had of like escaping from that was death. So the idea of being a zombie and being a slave for eternity was like really scary to them.
Mm,
And
yeah.
scary to you, like that's terrifying even if you're free, like living free. But some of the
Mm,
side effects include gait abnormality, which is
mhm.
like walking strangely in scientific words, and hyperglycemia. It's a condition in which an excessive amount of glucose circulates in the blood plasma. And the symptoms of hyperglycemia include polyphagia and polydipsia, which are like extreme hunger and extreme thirst, which
Mhm.
definitely makes me think of like a Western type of pop culture zombie. Just
Yeah.
like, uh, and one of the symptoms of this is actually like drooling
Oh, really?
too. So, yeah.
Hmm.
And so it's like the stereotypical image of like a zombie that's
Yeah.
like craving flesh.
Yeah, like the Plants vs. Zombie. Like remember like that game? Remember like there's like that drooling
Yeah.
zombie? Yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yeah, like Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great
Like
movie.
all of these kind of fit in with like
Yeah.
the typical Western pop culture zombie. And then there's also associated with hyperglycemia is chorea, an abnormal involuntary movement disorder. And
Hmm.
interestingly enough, the term chorea is derived from the ancient Greek zopia, which translates to dance, as the quick movements of the feet or hands are
Oh.
comparable to dancing. So that's also like the Western type zombie. They're like
Hmm.
twitching and stuff, just like moving around involuntarily. So that's one of the
Hmm.
symptoms. And then, yeah, this is the drooling one, opsoclonus myoclonus syndrome. And here's the one you brought up, emotional disturbances, including fits of rage. And this is xylosine, so it does like kind of relate to PCP in that way.
Okay.
And then
So,
you got weight loss. That's all from like hyperglycemia, which
yeah.
xylosine seems to activate.
And again, like with the whole zombies and hunger and all that.
Yeah, just like you can see the ribs, like spooky stuff, man. And so other side effects of xylosine, poor wound healing, dry or itchy skin, recurrent infections, stupor, the lack of critical mental function, and a level of consciousness in which an affected person is almost entirely unresponsive and responds only to intense stimuli such as pain. The word
Hmm.
derives from the Latin stupor, numbness, insensibility.
Hmm.
So, this is kind of saying like you're not really conscious unless you feel pain, I guess. And so that kind of differs from PCP in that I guess that you can kind of still feel pain on it. I mean, it's called Tranq dope. I would think
Hmm.
it probably helps with pain. That's probably how a lot of people get addicted to it as well. And disorientation. So all of these effects pretty zombie-like, and there's a lot of other side effects with xylazine that I didn't mention.
Hmm.
Um, but those are like the ones that really stood out to me as like zombie-like.
Okay. And like with a lot of like drugs like that, I mean, is there any like disfigurement to like the body or anything like that? Like, to like the skin or like
Well, when it comes to that, I think the drier, itchy skin for wound healing and recurrent effect infections would all kind of add up to where, like, if you imagine like poor wound healing and drier, itchy skin together,
yeah,
it's
okay.
like you're gonna be itching, cutting yourself, and it's also not gonna be healing.
And you
I don't
feel the
know.
infection, yeah.
Yeah, the infection too. So I think people that are probably like long-term users look pretty gnarly. I don't know if it
Hmm.
gets as bad as something like crocodile, which is like known to just like melt your flesh off of your
Yeah,
bones pretty much, but it probably looks like really gnarly, I'd imagine, with all of those like side effects.
yeah.
So yeah, and I don't know if that's really a Haitian type of characteristic when they think of zombies. It's like when I imagine it, and this comes from like a place of ignorance, but I feel like in their culture, it's like it's just like an emotionless, almost like soulless person that doesn't have any free will. And I think they've like described them as like gray looking too, like not having a lot of pigment in their skin when they're like zombified. I mean, that's kind of like with Western zombies, it's almost like they're like stereotypically green. But I think with Haitian, it's more like a gray color usually, like when they depict them. But yeah, I think with xylazine, it doesn't really like change your skin color from what I could tell. But I think you could definitely, be looking pretty zombie-like after being a long-term user of it. And yeah, that pretty much wraps up like the side effects of it. From here, I wanted to include two of the expeditions into Haiti that were looking into the zombie occurrences. One of the first ones was undertaken by, and okay, this happened in 1937 by an American folklorist and anthropologist by the name of Zora Neale Hurston. During Hurston's travels around Haiti in a search for evidence, the researcher came across a woman by the name of Felicia Felix Mentor, who is claimed to be a zombie by villagers. The locals explained that the woman had died in 1907 and then returned as a zombie 20 years later.
Oh wow.
The woman exhibited 20 years. I actually didn't even really register that until just now, but that's freaking
No.
wild. And she came to this village where saying this woman, Felicia, was a zombie. Like the villagers were explaining that she died in 1907 and returned as a zombie 20 years later. Now,
Oh wow.
as we'll look into, yeah, the 20 years thing is insane. So I kind of want to like speculate about that for a minute because I just realized that that's like a big gap. Yeah, here it is. Tetrodotoxin is a powerful neurotoxin that's derived from a pufferfish called
Yeah.
tetrodotoxin. So you've heard of this? It kind of
Yeah,
like
and
almost
I
like makes
yeah,
you
I
appear
keep
as
them
you're
puffer
dead,
fish.
as though you're dead.
Yeah, and makes all
Yeah,
your vital signs go almost dormant. Your breathing, your
yeah.
pulse, I believe, yeah, it slows everything down. Yeah.
Like you're like pretty much anyone would think you're dead on that stuff. But
Yeah.
obviously, if that's actually how this occurs, I don't think you could be on that for 20 years. So I'm guessing maybe she was like, maybe her like handler brought her somewhere else for 20 years and she returned like 20 years later after her death or supposed death. So that's just a wild number. I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard different cases like that where, someone's sibling, family member would go missing for, they would be conceivably dead and they would see them a handful of years later as a zombie, doing like manual labor or something. And yeah, and I definitely see what you're saying, like with the difference in like kind of the Western zombie as compared to like the Haitian kind of zombie, and totally different in like regards as they're more of enslaved like a zombie and in
Yeah, and like the Western zombie, it doesn't really have a handler. Yeah, it's just like kind of like a virus. It just
yeah.
turns
Excuse
into
me.
a man-eating beast. Here's something with this Felicia lady. So she exhibited limited mental facilities, was unresponsive physically, or sorry, unresponsive, physically uncoordinated, which that kind of ties into like Western zombies. So I think there's some definite overlap there, and
Hmm.
generally largely consistent with what a traditional zombie was said to be like. Kirsten, which is like the investigator and folklorist lady. One is it a girl? I don't know. Let me read the name and you let me know if it sounds like a girl. Zora Neale Horston is like Zora kind of sounds like a female name to me. But
It
anyways,
does.
yeah,
Let us know in the
I'd have
comments.
to like see. Yeah, I didn't research that. Yes, so let us know in the comments for sure. um, okay, so she found this lady and she gathered evidence and rumors that brought her to the conclusion that the cause of zombification was not black magic, but rather had a pharmacological basis. In other words, Kirsten believed that some sort of poison or drug was used to induce a death-like state in the victim. Okay, and then we move on to 1982. You
Hmm.
have a ethnobotanist and anthropologist and explorer Wade Davis, who traveled to Haiti and made the observation that Bokors, and I guess these are the guys and
Yeah,
gals
like
that,
the witch kind of doctors
yeah, I
the
was
ones
trying to
that
remember
do
the
the
name of them
zombification.
earlier.
Yeah, like the ones that kind of do the zombification process.
Yeah, and he made this observation about them that they would routinely use special powders made from a complex mixture of ground up plant and animal parts in their rituals. Yeah, again, I'm not denying the black magic thing at all. Obviously, they're having rituals. I don't know how much of it has to do with the mixtures of the ground up plants and animal parts and how much of it has to do with like black magic. But in Davis's case, he became convinced that these concoctions had some kind of pharmacological effect that were integral for the actual zombification of a victim. And so he came up with this theory. Again, we're going to mention the neurotoxin derived from pufferfish called tetrodotoxin. He theorized that the resulting toxic powder could then be delivered to the target in a variety of ways, such as in their food, applied as a paste to skin, or even inhaled as an airborne dust
Oh, that's
in
interesting.
non-lethal doses. Yeah, so this could actually be kind of like maybe what people say like dragon's breath, maybe it's actually just tetrodotoxin,
Oh yeah,
and it's just
yeah,
like basically making someone appear to be dead.
yeah,
Low
definitely.
body
That's.
temperature,
Mhm.
extremely reduced rate of breathing, and a very slow and faint, almost imperceptible heartbeat. So yeah, I mean, like you'll look like you're dead, and they'll
Yeah, so
bury
it's like
you.
them appear near dead, and then they would retrieve them after their burial and then enslave them that way.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess what would happen is the locals would like, and this is 20 years for that one case, Felicia's case,
Hmm.
where it's like they still recognized her all after all that time. So I guess this is kind of how it got out, or like how he came to this conclusion. It's like even after all of that, staging someone's death, like
Hmm.
years later, they'll recognize them. What his theory is they go through this deaths, like they stage the death, they get them out, and
Hmm.
this is where we move on to the plant Deuterus germonium, which is like
Hmm.
scopolamine, basically the
Yes.
dragon's breath,
Yeah.
the
Uh-huh.
scary drug that makes it so that you don't have any free will, pretty much. And we'll get into a little bit of the science there on why that is. And yeah, it's basically mind control. So, scopolamine is a species belonging to the Datura genus containing the chemical scopolamine blocks acetylcholine, ACH, is an organic chemical that functions in the brain and body of many types of animals, including humans, as a neurotransmitter. Its target issues are skeletal muscles, the brain, and many other organs.
Hmm.
And then in this, it says nicotine works as an agonist, which an agonist, I guess it's like a counteracting effect. So there's a theory that nicotine has a counteracting effect on the effects of scopolamine due
Hmm.
to its opposing effect on acetylcholine signaling. And I guess this acetylcholine is like,
Hmm.
this is interesting. Like, I guess it's kind of why nicotine is so addictive. And I've noticed that, like, my reaction time, like, basically how fast I can make decisions, is increased when I smoke nicotine. Um,
Right, yeah. I know, like with nicotine, it has a way of really calms your nerves, and it actually affects your brain. Like you said, like it kind of forces you to almost like relax and sort of like better reaction time. And actually, just kind of a little side thing here, it's theorized that a lot of people that are in very, very stressful, job environments, like, doctors, police, law enforcement, firefighters, EMTs, a lot of those people are smokers. If you can kind of understand why you see like how stressful their job is, obviously they kind of need something to kind of reset their emotions a little bit to kind of bring them back down. So yeah, no, I totally understand that.
yeah, I definitely recommend if you're going to, what is it? I think Cambodia is where like scopolamine is used a lot on people to like try to rob them. Like,
Yeah,
uh,
and Colombia also, like
oh
in
yeah,
South
Colombia
America.
is probably
Yeah.
what I was thinking of. And like, yeah, you'll just like someone will blow it in your face, and the next thing you know, you're like in a bathtub, and like bank
Yeah.
accounts are cleared, and it's scary stuff. So I was just saying, like, after reading this, if there's a chance that nicotine can counteract that effect, it's like, dude, if I ever went there, I'd be like smoking cigars the whole time.
It's just chainsaw. Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's crazy. Like if you've ever heard, of dragon's breath or devil's breath, how susceptible these people are. I mean, like there's been stories of people, handing over their children. They get that blown in their face and they'll give up their kids. Like you said, yeah, being tricked into giving up their PIN number or, emptying their bank accounts. Even people just being blindly robbed just to like even like unlock their house or, open like, maybe like a safe or like some hiding spot where they keep all their jewelry or money or any belongings. They're that susceptible. So like it's really crazy, that it's has that big of an effect.
Yeah, it's I didn't know people would give up their kids, man, but
Yeah.
I didn't hear about cases like that, but it's yeah, terrifying. And it's like you're not like being tricked, you're just like you don't have the ability to say no, like you don't have free will. Like it's and you also don't remember anything once the effects wear off. So it's like the perfect drug to just like completely victimize someone. So,
And
if you're not into nicotine, that's kind of a good reason to smoke on it. And
yeah.
like you said about like stressful job environments, I work at a police department detailing. Yeah, a lot of those guys smoke like pipe tobacco or like cigars and it's super common. Yeah, a lot of them do that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, even like if you ever go to like a hospital or something, you see, people smoking out, like nurses or EMTs, oh, and like especially, in the restaurant industry too, is that's like not that it's as stressful, obviously, as a medical profession, but I mean, as you know, the restaurant biz
Yeah, I've
though, yeah,
definitely done a
it's
lot of
super
time
big.
there.
Yeah, so
Yeah, it
and
is. Like everyone's cigarette smokers or vape smoking in
oh
the
yeah.
rest in the kitchen, just vaping in the middle of the kitchen and
Oh, you've had that
yeah.
happen before?
Yeah, dude, vaping, the thing with it is you can just do it and it'll like the smell will be gone. It'll like
Yeah, it'll like
dissipate
dissipate.
before the
Wow.
boss comes around the corner. So
Oh
people
wow.
sneak it in, man. It's wild, but yeah, so that's like another benefit of nicotine.
Yeah.
Obviously the downside is possible cancer.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. There's a slight downside, but yeah, and
okay. Oh, sorry.
oh yeah, no, I was just gonna say, you know what's really interesting about scopolamine?
Uh-huh.
So, what's really interesting about it
Yeah.
is back in the day, and I don't know exactly, when, but maybe, I don't know, I'd say maybe like in the maybe 80s to 70s, if I had to take a guess.
Uh-huh.
Scopolamine was actually found, I believe in Colombia. I can't remember what plant it comes from, but that's why devil's breath is such a popular drug out there in Colombia because it comes from some plant. I can't remember the name of
Yeah,
it
I
right now.
think it was Datura something. I think Datura stramonium, if it might come from other plants too, but
Yeah,
don't
that
they call it that like because it has like, is it the pollen or something?
it's
I
something.
forget why
Yeah,
it's called devil's breath. Or maybe the people that use it like grind up the plant and just blow it.
I know whatever the plant is, it's like really common out there,
And the
and
other thing is like it's almost like possessing you. So the devil part of it
yeah,
maybe
it,
comes from that.
yeah, exactly, and see, what's interesting with that is with scopolamine, and again, I don't know exactly when, but scopolamine was actually found in motion sickness pills up until, I don't know, like if I had to take a guess, maybe like around the 1980s or something like that, maybe the 70s. But scopolamine
Yeah.
was found
Oh
in motion
yeah.
sickness pills, and
But just at
later,
really low doses. It just like
yeah,
helps with motion sickness, but anything
yes.
above that, it's like you just lose the ability to make decisions.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think sometime, around then, or after then, they replaced scopolamine with Dramamine. If you ever go to Rite Aid and you get motion sickness pills, it's going to be Dramamine instead of scopolamine. But scopolamine is as far as I can tell, it's still found in the motion sickness, like the little tabs. Like, you ever see
Wow.
people like they have them behind their ear, like when they're flying. It looks like a
Wow.
little band-aid. Yeah.
So it's like still used.
As
So it
far as
like
I
has a
can tell,
function. Yeah, it's
yeah,
just like the dosage is everything here.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, as far as I can tell, I mean, and again, I'm no expert. I mean, for all I know, maybe they could have done away with that, and maybe they have something else. But as far as I could tell, with like the little tabs, like for motion sickness, I believe those still had scopolamine. Now I'm
Wouldn't
assuming
like
it's
an
a very low
interesting
dose.
test they could do to like kind of try to confirm that nicotine works to like counteract the effects? Maybe say like a guy like who always gets motion sickness on a plane or whatever, like a replicable result. Like he always gets motion sickness doing this one activity, but he uses like the scopolamine patches and it works and it's like replicable and it always works. But say like you give him a cigar and
Mm,
then you throw on the patch and then have him like do the plane ride or the boat, or some people even get motion sickness like watching certain like movies or video games. So that's
yeah,
another thing you can use as the test. But yeah, that would
yeah,
be an interesting experiment if they
yeah,
haven't done it
definitely.
already.
And you've heard of like placebo pills, right? Or like some people call them
No.
like sugar pills.
Does this relate to the placebo effect at all?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. So some people had call 'em, like, sugar pills or, placebo pills. And there's actually a guy on, I think it's like TikTok or Instagram or something, and he was trying them out. Basically, the pill is nothing. It's got nothing in it. Sometimes it's like a capsule filled with like sugar or, something. Basically has no sort of medicinal anything in it. So but yeah, it just works off of the placebo effect. And this one guy, and
Oh,
this is like really recent, he was testing it out with a couple friends, and him and two other friends. Now, he and one of the friends knew that it was a placebo pill and did nothing. The third friend didn't know, and they're eating spicy food, and every time they would just increase the intensity of like the spice, right? And they all took this, they call it like an anti-spice pill or something.
hmm.
So, and then the two friends that knew it was a placebo, they would hype up the other friend and say, "Oh yeah, that's not spicy at all. That's so weird. I don't taste Tabasco or whatever." And then now it only worked so far in this case. I can't remember what was the thing that did them in. I think maybe like some ghost pepper, sauce or something. It was crazy because the other two had to put on an act and pretend that they didn't taste any spice. But the third friend literally did not taste anything just because she believed that it was an actual thing. Now, it did work up to a certain point, but so I thought that was
Eventually,
kind of
just like
interesting.
the physical effects of the spiciness probably like overcame the placebo effect that she was like
Yeah.
getting.
Yeah, and I
Like
guess
it
it really,
and was yeah, I also wonder like how tolerant she normally was of spicy food. Like if she
yeah,
was like me, she'd be like sweating at like level 2 or whatever normally, but maybe you pop this pill and you're like level 2's easy, like, and you make it up to like level 7 before you
yeah,
start actually tasting spicy.
yeah, exactly. So, and that was just something I thought was like really interesting, and sort of like along par with like, scopolamine and all.
Yeah, like that test, the theoretical test, and like even for me, I think yeah, like if it was me and you or someone I really trusted, and I was like, all right, dude, let's get some scopolamine. I'll smoke a cigar, and let's see, like, you like just ask me to do something I normally won't do or whatever, or like it could even just be something I would normally do, but I'll be like, all right, normally, like I'll for the test before, like the condition is okay, I'll say no to that. Like it could be something as simple as like don't open that box. And I'll be like,
Yeah,
all right, I'll not open the box. And if the scopolamine works, in theory, I should just like open the box. And if the nicotine works against it, in theory, I'll still have like my free will and remember the condition and not open the box. So that would be an interesting test, like if we could get scopolamine.
yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
I could be a little test subject for that.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean that
Yeah,
pretty
that is
much
for another
wraps it
video.
up, dude. A lot of the effects with xylazine and scopolamine were actually overlapping. Unfortunately, I didn't like list them. I think the main difference is like with scopolamine, you can't like store memories and you can't really control your free will. The main things that scopolamine differs when you're like comparing it side by side with xylazine, I would say like scopolamine, they're both like really scary drugs, but I don't think so. I guess
Oh
like
yeah,
the
for sure.
scarier part about xylazine is the addictive quality. I can't really imagine someone getting addicted to scopolamine or like
Hmm.
even doing it recreationally, although I bet there are people out there that do that. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I'll just turn it over to you if you want to like chime in on any of the black magic stuff or like just any thoughts or questions.
What I heard about the sort of voodoo zombies, the Haitian culture, they believe that there's like two types of death. That there's like natural death, which is kind of obvious. You just die of, old age, natural causes, sickness, something like that. And then there's unnatural death. And they believed that was like, murder, that was like suicide, anything like that. And they believed that someone that died of an unnatural death was more susceptible to becoming that of a zombie. And see, what was
Mm.
really interesting, it's
And
like,
didn't they have like two names for each one? Like I don't remember them. Or if I'm mixing it up with something else.
I'm sure that they probably had some sort of a translation. From what I know, they just kind of had it like unnatural and natural death. I'm sure they probably have like
Gotcha.
some kind of translation. They really believed that those who had an unnatural death were more prone to becoming a zombie. They 100% they believe in these Haitian zombies. They believe that they're real, and it kind of differentiates a little bit from like our thought of like the Western zombies, kind of like you're saying, because they don't necessarily fear the zombies. They really feel sorry for them. It's like
Oh yeah, that's a
instead of like
big one.
yeah,
That's
instead of
a
like
big
fearing
difference.
yeah, instead of like fearing the zombie, they really fear becoming a zombie. Because like you said, they've been
Yeah.
enslaved for so long, and that's a kind of like a big, like you were saying, like a big slave trade they would do. Other, Bokers would enslave someone, and they would swap them out, and mainly they would just be sort of mindless and just really doing people's dirty work. So that those are kind of like the big differences that came about in my research with that.
Yeah,
But
it's like the Western zombies, they're almost seen as like non-human. Like just like
yeah,
no remorse for like killing them, whereas
just
like with Haitian, it's like seen as like
they're still a person.
victims. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
still a
exactly.
person.
Exactly. I mean, and yeah, just like what you're saying, it with like the puffer fish, like it basically brings all the pulse levels, really low. I heard that no one really quite knew for sure, but yeah, I believe there's different types of herbs and plants that they used in order to get the same results. Again, just to like make your vital signs like almost non-existent, and just really like kind of enslave someone and make them sort of like mindless. And again, that really ties in with the devil's breath, like with the scopolamine.
Yeah, that's kind of something they both share, like the Western zombie and the Haitian zombie. It's like you die and resurrect. Maybe
Yeah,
resurrect is like not the right word for it, but like you die and come back to life, I guess.
yeah,
And that's kind of something they both overlap with and both share in common.
yeah, exactly. And again, it's very similar to like kind of like we were saying, not necessarily with the coming back to life, but kind of like with the trank dope, the sort of the mindlessness, um, sort of aggressive behavior, and all quote unquote zombie like symptoms that kind of mentioned with the trank dope. But yeah, no, I think that's about all the time we have for today. We'll be in touch. Go ahead and leave a comment for any sort of topics you'd like to hear us talk about in the future. If you have any sort of locations in California or anywhere else that you recommend. Again, any other topics you guys would like us to cover. And until next time, I've been Dre.
And I'm Luke.
And again, welcome to the afterlife. It's been great, and we'll see you next time.